And people like Netanyahu are on this inner core. And of course, as I think you've said many times, um, Netanyahu is not a Semite. He comes out of Poland, where his father came out.
Milkowski.
Yeah, and so what they've basically done, I go into this in my books in detail. They've hijacked the whole idea of Judaism. I think some people call them crypto Jews. They've hijacked it, and as I've said many times, no one needs to understand what's going on more than Jewish people in general, because they're being played.
That's right. And they've hijacked it for the single purpose, explicitly for the purpose of being protected by these anti-Semitism laws. And you're not allowed to criticize our greatest ally, and that these are God's chosen people. How narcissistic is that, by the way? We're chosen by God to annex all of this land, to steal what doesn't belong to us, to enslave everybody who doesn't claim to be a Jew, or to kill them and just execute them. How narcissistic is that? Yeah, we're going to go find some red calves, and we're going to slaughter them on this altar, and then we're going to burn them and play in their ashes to usher in the Antichrist. I mean, this is sick. These people are sick.
That's an interesting point, because it's something that lets you get a grasp of a lot of what's going on. One of the things that they're doing is using biblical Old Testament prophecy,
yep,
making it happen to convince Christians and Jews,
2.4 billion some odd people who identify as Christians,
that God is making it happen.
Right.
So they kind of support it. Oh, this is God. This is prophesied in the Bible. No. This inner core's making it happen.
So bowing to the Jew has become a religious sacrament that Christians will die for.
So what you have, if you look at current events, this biblical prophecy and people like the defense secretary and Huckabee, the Trump Israeli ambassador, are openly talking about this. So have others in the Trump administration. The idea is to demolish the Alaska Mosque on what Jews and Christians call Temple Mount, and in its place rebuild the third, quote, Solomon's Temple. Now, if you'd have said that a few years ago, people would have gone, "You're insane." Can you imagine the Palestinian response to that? And it would be like catastrophic war. Now look at the situation now. You've got the West Bank, which is about to be annexed with Trump's approval and support. And the settlers, which he has stopped the sanctions against, are stealing more land. The army's in the West Bank now during this fake ceasefire, and more land is being taken. So that's going. Gaza is a demolition site. And so you look now at the military dominance of Israel over the Palestinians with American support. And suddenly, and then you've got the idea of that Trump has been playing about moving the Palestinians out to Jordan and to Egypt. And suddenly, this demolishing the mosque and building the Solomon's Temple becomes
mainstream.
It becomes suddenly very possible, and so you've got this situation where so many Christians that believe it's God making it happen who are supporting all this, and that's in part why it's happening. And in the Trump administration, Israel is going to be center stage, obviously, and where it's going, it doesn't really bear thinking about.
So at this point, it is clear to say that Israel controls our foreign policy. Benjamin Netanyahu is the de facto president of the United States, and nobody has more power, politically speaking, in this country than he does.
I think that has been the case for a very, very long time. I wrote a book called The Trigger, which is about 9/11. And it's a big book. I took a long time researching it. And the first half of the book takes apart the official story of 9/11, which a child could do, really. And the second half of the book looks at who was really behind it. And Israel is every bloody where, everywhere. And so the scale of control of American society is fundamental out of Israel, and it's something that this anti-Semitic censorship is there to stop coming out. And one other thing I'd like to mention. This is a bit of a different way of looking at things. We talked earlier about theatre and how it's all theatre. It is. The point is, how deep does the theatre go? How deep does the control really go that plays out the theatre? Now, Trump came in 2016, and he had 4 years. Had Trump won the next election, he'd be now done in terms of his ability to be president. But the focus year of this global cult, one of the big focus years, to have this AI control and all this other control really, really in place, is 2030. They want so much in place by then. Now, if the Democrat had come in after 2 terms of Trump, in this period running up to 2030, there would be massive pushback against them when they were pushing the same agenda that Trump's pushing now, because that's the agenda. That's what would happen. There'd be tremendous pushback. All these people now who are eulogizing Trump and Musk would have been screaming from the rooftops, look, this is the transhumanism. This is coming in. Look, it's the Democrats. But what's happened is because Trump didn't win the last election, but won this one, he's the one in this period now, basically in the run up to 2030, that allows this agenda to unfold without the pushback there would have been before. And I don't think that's an accident. And I would say that, from coming up to 36 years now of research into all this full time, the depth of control is beyond what most people believe even today.
What about the solutions? What about remedy to all of this? I mean, is this just a big black pill? We're never going to get our country back. We're never going to get our sovereignty back. Like, this is it.
Well, this is something, I see when I post things on Twitter X, people say, oh, you never talk about solutions. I've talked about solutions for 35 bloody years. And it all comes down in the end to this. What they are trying to do all the time is manipulate us to give our collective power away to them. So for a long time, you had royalty and rule by royal ascension and bloodline, still ruled by bloodline to a large extent, but openly then. And there came a point eventually, and what that was the king or the queen was dictating to the entire population. And then eventually humanity grew up, matured enough to reject that. We still have a king in Britain, bizarrely, in 2025. But most of the world got rid of all that. And so what happened is that this global cult that goes way back into antiquity and has gathered more power as we moved into the modern world, it had to find another way of controlling people and crucially getting them to give their power to them. So they came up with politics and political parties. And political parties are pyramids. You've got a few at the top that dictate the nature and the rules, regulations, and policies of the party. And the inner core of both parties are actually, again, attached to this cult. The cult's running the show. And all over the world, it's running the two-party state as a one-party state. And so what that was about, and the wonderful example now with Trump, is another way of getting you to give your power to them. So here we have, in 2025, one man, Donald Trump, sitting at his desk, signing these executive orders and transforming American society. And he's one bloke. 350 million, at least, Americans are having their lives dictated by one bloke signing these executive orders. I remember a Clinton aide talking about executive orders years ago, and he said, oh, they're great. Swish of the pen, law of the land. You know, it's a dictatorship. And what happens with, I mean, people talk about technocracy. Technocracy is coming, I agree. But to a large extent, America's already a technocracy because you elect, at least in theory, the president, and then he fills the positions of state with whoever he chooses to have them. And they're not elected. Most of them are not seen a ballot box in their life. Elon Musk, I rest my case. And so what you have now, as before, although it's hidden by democracy, is the population giving their power away to a tiny few people that represent this cult, whether it's Democrat or Republican. And what would happen, say, I don't know what it was, 75 million people voted for Trump this time around and in other elections. What if those 75 million people of the 350 million people ceased to cooperate with their own enslavement, simply would not obey authority when it was clearly targeting their freedom and targeting their enslavement? It would be impossible. I mean, you know, again, you come back to this point I made earlier about the marches in London during COVID. A few at the start were picked off and arrested by the police. In the end, there's so bloody many, the police are watching us go past. They can't cope because we weren't cooperating in vast numbers. And what they do all the time, and this is part of what politics is about and other divide mechanisms are about, it's dividing and ruling the population by getting them to go to war with each other. And while they're all fighting each other over this, that, or the other, then they're not looking up and seeing the same hand holding the strings of both sides. And what we need to do, I would suggest, is take a bloody breath, put aside what we don't agree on, and realize that, as happened during COVID for a short time, and it was fantastic in London, is focus on the common threat. And what they do by manipulating perception and sides is that they get you to believe they're the common threat and get them to believe they're the common threat, and there you have the divide and rule. And people say, well, you can't stop human nature and all that. Okay, all right. Well, enslavement's coming then. Oh, don't mess about, pussyfoot around. If we go on as we are, being divided and ruled and pulled to give our minds away, our perceptions away to an external force, which is what is happening, then what this cult wants, this cult will get. And, when you look at human history, look at it. What's the common theme of human history? The few have always controlled the many, always. And therefore, that's why the few, the elites, as they become known, run the show. Why? Because the population in its vastness gives its power away to authority, not least through fear of not obeying authority.
It starts early in life. I mean, it starts right when you walk into a kindergarten classroom. One teacher rules 30 children. Happens in society. The police, several hundred of them, control thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of people.
That's exactly right. And, when you look at society from this perspective, you can see the preparation starting from a very, very, very early age, the earliest age. So you come out of the womb and your parents are the authority. Okay, that needs to happen because, you're bloody helpless. But that authority continues. So you go to school and suddenly you're sitting at a desk and an authority figure representing the state is telling you when you have to be there, when you can go home, when you can talk, when you can go to the toilet, when you can eat, all of it. And you learn very early on that if you push back against that, there are consequences. If you go along with it and obey authority, well, it's on the face of it easier. And this goes on all the way through your formative years. And they are preparing perceptually people to accept and fear authority.
What if you just don't give them jurisdiction over you?
Exactly. I mean,
be ungovernable.
Exactly. Let's come together, realize that there's a common threat here, and it goes through right and left, and simply refuse to cooperate with our own enslavement and the enslavement of our kids. But to do that, you've got to get informed. And to get informed, you've got to take a step back from the puppet show and the diversions, and you've got to dispassionately look at what is happening and understand what is happening and the nature, so important, of the perceptual techniques that are employed upon us. Because I go into them in my books in great detail. The perceptual techniques are what the conspiracy is, basically. I mean, you look at the people that are eulogizing Trump. Why are they doing that? Because their perceptions have been captured to do that. And it's the same with all these different belief systems. Your perceptions are captured, and they play one captured belief system off against a different captured belief system to divide and rule. We've just got to take a step back, take a deep breath, and look at this whole society again and realize that it's not that side being played. We're all being bloody played, but it's possible not to be if you get informed in a dispassionate way, not attached to this belief system or attached to that belief system, but just look at it in its totality. And you'll see that the world you thought you were living in is nothing like the one that we're living in. And like I said earlier, you've got this cult that passes on this advanced knowledge through the secret society at the inner core level network. And the same cult has set up the human society. It set up the governments. It set up the education system, which is a programming system. It set the whole thing up to keep you in ignorance of what they know. And so when people come along, like me and you and others, and say, actually, we've uncovered what they know, this is what is happening. Of course, the vast majority of people, it's just too outside of their program belief system to think that could be going on. They'd never do that, and all lines such like. But we've got to open our minds and realize that the world is nothing like we think it is. In fact, it's nothing like even most people in the conspiracy arena think it is.
Well, the enemy is doing a really good job at shifting the Overton window as well, as far as our ideological core beliefs, our foundation of morality, and they're allowing the unthinkable to become mainstream. They would never do this to us, and then they do it. And it just becomes more and more mainstream, and more people accept this methodical sexualization of our children, the trafficking of our children, the harvesting of children's organs, going and fighting wars and dying in other countries at the behest of some other arbitrary, construct drawn on a map in May 14th, 1948, for example, or another one, Ukraine, just arbitrarily drawn on a map in 1991, sending billions of dollars. We would never do that. Of course they would, and they're doing it. So they're doing a really good job of shifting that belief system. But I believe also, too, that because of these occurrences, combined with voices like yours and the voices of this network, the Overton window is shifting in the other direction and saying, yeah, you know what? These people are doing this to us and to our children, and we got to stop it. A minute left. Final words.
Yeah. You mentioned wars. Classic. What is a war? It's a tiny elite in this country telling its masses to fight this country. And in this country they're fighting, a tiny elite is telling its masses to fight that country. And the two elites never see a gun fired in anger. And what is that? That is perceptual control, and it's the fear of not obeying authority that makes these two masses fight each other. And a war, of course, is the classic divide and rule. So in the end, because it's a perceptual conspiracy, control how people see the world and themselves, and therefore they'll behave in sync with that. Taking our perceptions back and ceasing to have them, our thoughts and beliefs manipulated, is fundamental to stopping this. And also, I would say this, people think that disobeying authority is a kind of a scary thing. Okay, I do understand that. I mean, I don't give a damn. I'm in my 70s now, so coming up 73. I give a damn, and I've been giving a damn for a long time. But what I would say is this: if you think it's scary now to disobey authority, stick around and see how scary it's going to be if we don't disobey authority and allow it to come what is about to come.
Something very strange happened on our end with your audio as you were finishing that statement up, and so I'd like for you to say it again.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that people think it's scary. I do understand that, to disobey authority, because they've been programmed. Oh, you can't disobey authority. But if they think it's scary to do that, they should stick around, because if we don't do that and go on as we are, if you think it's scary now, it's nothing as what is coming. Because if we don't start disobeying authority, if we don't stop cooperating with our own enslavement, what this cult wants to come, and it's horrific, will come. And if we look back from that perspective and say, I wish I'd have disobeyed when I had the chance, well, do it now. Because if you don't, that's what's coming.
It's going to be parents looking at their kids behind bars or on their way to their own slaughter who say, I should have not been complacent. I should have acted. I should have stepped out of my comfort zone. I should not have been apathetic. And if you looked at generations that came before you, Mr. Icke, generations that came before my generation, generations that came before our kids, they would say, if they looked at today, they would say, I wish I would have not been. They would not recognize our society. They would not recognize our country. And if you would have told them then where we are now and said, hey, this is where we're going to have men chopping off their genitalia, pretending that they're women and believing that they are. And that class of mentally ill people, no, we're not reopening insane asylums for them. We're going to protect them. We're going to show our children the importance of transgenderism. We're going to do it at times of war while we teach it to Pashtun tribesmen and look the other way while these warlords rape little boys. We're going to drop bombs on innocent people. We're going to fund the creation of AI, which will replace humans. They would have been scared to death that would be a reality. And so it's all relative, because now where we are, imagining where we could be, progressively leaps and bounds ahead of then. Apathy and complacency is what has ended us up where we are now. It's all cyclical. That is the recipe for disaster. And yet sheep are blindly following the same recipe that has been handed on generation after generation after generation. Honor authority, fear your government, be compliant, be governed, sit down, shut up, live in your pod, eat bugs, and don't you dare question any of it. Be happy.
Yeah, and I have said many times over the years, look your children in the eye. Look your grandchildren in the eye. And just contemplate doing the same thing when this stuff is all in place. And when those kids say to you then, what were you doing, mummy, daddy, granddad, grandma, when the fascist state and the tyranny, the technocrat tyranny came in? What were you doing? And you'll have to say, lots of people will have to say, I was watching the TV, dear. I was voting for Trump, dear. And some of them will have to say, in law enforcement and in other areas of government, I was helping to bring it in here. And I don't want that conversation with my kids and grandkids, and I won't have it. But that's what's coming unless we summon the backbone to say, no, we're not cooperating with our own enslavement anymore.
I want to come and strategize with you in person. I'm out of time now. I want to come and sit down. If I come to the UK, will you have me?
Yeah, we'll have a chat, yeah.
All right, perfect. Remedy and solutions. Mr. David Icke, thank you so much for your time. You've been very gracious with it. I know that we were only scheduled for 1 hour. You gave us nearly 2. And so for that, I'm very appreciative. I'm sure that I will see you on X. We'll communicate, and I'm going to book a flight. I'm not going to telegraph when that's going to be, but I'm going to come out and see you. I thoroughly enjoyed sitting down with Gareth. I'm looking forward to seeing him at Anarchapulco coming up in just a week or so, and I will see you there as well, although be it virtually. You'll still be blessing us with your presence. So
I'll be
until the next time, until we shake hands in person, stay steadfast. Appreciate your fight. God bless you.
No problem. See ya. Bye.
Let's be honest. The Bible is the weapon of mass destruction. If these religious people are to be honest, all of their holy books are weapons of mass destruction because it encourages, legalizes them, empowers them to do the evilest of things. Then later down, go on knees, pray, dip yourself in water, cover yourself in olive oil, sing songs, kneel for hours, and they're forgiven. Everything is forgotten. That's the evils, people. Evils of these religions. We have to fight against these people. It's no longer about what you believe in. No. We see the history of religion. We see the consequences of religions and what they have perpetrated against humanity. And it continues. Look at Israel. Look at modern day Israel, people. This is no ancient nothing. This is happening right now. Modern time, real time events. These people are using the Bible, people. Using this book full of nonsense and lies and evils and wickedness as their power to enslave people, to steal people, and this is totally wickedness. No, we're done with that notion about what you believe in, and no. You can't believe in PDF files and I should accept and say, yeah, you're allowed. No. When is the line drawn? When is the line drawn? And the line has to be drawn on the religion people and religious people, because we see the history, we see the footprint, we see the what do you call it? As well as I said, the history of it. The word not coming to me now, but we see the history of it, people. We see the history of it, and it's crazy. It's evil. We need to wipe this off the face of the map. The Bible is the book of mass destruction, or the weapon of mass destruction. And God is the devil. God is the devil. Let's be real. Let's be real with that. God is the devil. God is the devil. God is the devil. God is the devil, people. Are what they portray him in the Bible. Dear God. Dear God. Remember, I never say what created this existence. I don't know about that. I'm talking about their God in their Bible. That's evil. He's the devil. Clearly. And the evilness continues, people, as Israel do what it's doing with the empowerment of the free country in the world, the democratic country, the free world. So yeah, you're free to create genocide, free to be a PDF, as long as you're their friends. You kneel beside them to the masters that control these puppets. Crazy times ahead, people. Crazy time, but we continue to fight. Never heed, never surrender. Fight, you. And love is the power we'll use to win this fight. So we continue, people. Love.